Okay, we're back here again. You can see basically what I've done since the last shot is I've just added more of these colors and more of these variations in the coat or the owl's body here. Again, I'm just making indications of things happening with these feathers. I'm not going through and really putting the high level detail yet. But at some point here, now that we're back and you're looking at this, I'm going to quite deliberately back away from this owl and stop painting him for a while, because I want to kind of follow that rule that I was talking about earlier, making sure that the painting as a whole develops with some uniformity, that I don't go too far in one area and forget to put in the details that are needed in another. So that gives me an opportunity to kind of show you a trick or two along the way, which I'm going to do. So I'm going to back away from that bird. I'm going to talk a little bit about values. I want you to see something happen sort of rather quickly up here. If you look at this area right up in here, now in case you didn't know about this previously, is that I basically knocked in this background, not in full detail, but just enough to give me an indication how to make a nice arrangement, how to feature this owl in a good way, you know, and having it fit in with the background and with the whole look of the piece. But I didn't develop that background right off the bat and complete it. But you can see right here that if you understand what values are, meaning what to, you know, basically on a scale of lightness and darkness, you'll see that these colors, even though they're different colors, they're roughly right here in the same value range. And what that means is that the colors don't really kind of pop out, they kind of float along on the canvas in sort of a together area. Well, one of the things that I noticed that I really wanted to bring out was some definition. Like the lightness of this tree that's up in the forefront, I'm going to make that tree pop out a little bit just by creating some dark areas and a couple of real sensible places here in this back line. If we notice, there's kind of almost a hint of shrubbery before it gets lighter and farther away in the background. I'm going to throw in some little dark indicators here of where that light would be in the under areas in this tree area before it transitions up. And you'll see just by doing this, just by bringing in this contrast of these tree trunks against this darker area in the back, what that does. You can kind of see that automatically that kind of pops up a little bit better because it's contrasting nicer and it's hitting the eye a little bit differently than if it were all in that same value range. It gets kind of muddy or it gets kind of soft. And sometimes you can use that to your advantage, like if you're painting distance scenes where there's less brilliance in color and more light refraction and more atmosphere between you and a distant mountain. But in this case, you've got to, the closer you are to your subject matter and the closer you are to a foreground in the painting, by nature, you've got to cover more color, because that's how color is basically, is the way that light reflects and refracts. And the closest things are to us, the more brilliant they appear, because we are seeing more light molecules bounce off the surface without being interfered with. That's why things that are closer to us always seem darker, and things that are farther away have less color. Because nature does that. Nature does that automatically. And if you remember from the earlier segment that we shot on this painting, that's one of the things that a good painting really sort of has to observe, is that it has to follow natural law, or what nature would do. Or, you know, if you don't, it's just not going to look right. It's going to look peculiar, and people are going to go, I don't know. Now, sometimes you can tweak nature too, and call attention to a thing in a different way. But that's really for a different kind of category, other than, you know, realist-based painting. This style is actually really sort of loose. It's not really what I would call realism. It's sort of like a cross between Impressionism and realism here. Only because I'm very deliberately not being very tight and concise with it. I'm letting the brush indicate some of these leaves rather than going in and trying to individually paint all of those leaves, which would be more so in a realist tradition, to paint what is real in a real way and is exacting. But I'm letting the brushwork and the paint do some of the work at indicating some of what the shrubbery would look like in these trees. Because it's only background, and some of it, the farther you go back too, there's a change in focus. You'll see that what I have up in here, which is closer to us, I made a point of bringing up lights and darks more dramatically than I did in the back, because it's farther away and there's less light disbursement and there's more atmosphere.